Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Martha Wolf Show. It's quite late. We're quite comfortable here. We need to talk about this Sharon Granites abduction story and the commentary about it. And I'm going to try to push back on some of the commentary and like it says in the title of the video, I want to do a defense of Aboriginal people in this case, which could be difficult to do, but I think that's important that someone at least tries. Sometimes it's important to just stand for a position and just try to hold your ground on it. And I'm going to take a Darwinian perspective on the whole thing and the responses to it and a lot of the commentary around the topic and do the best I can with that. So, Sharon Granites was a 5-year-old Aboriginal girl. I believe she was in Alice Springs or near there. Yes, it was near there, which is in the middle of Australia. And she was abducted and killed. And for some reason, no one is saying this, but almost certainly raped. I mean, why do little girls get abducted? Let's just be real. Who are we protecting by not saying that? Who are we protecting here? This is the home and the conditions that murdered 5-year-old Sharon Granites was living in when she was snatched, says Ryan Daly. And he's basically calling for more resources to be directed towards the Aboriginal community. So let's have a look at the video here. So that's the grandfather. So obviously you can see spots on the top of the ceiling, the walls, the side of the fridge. I mean, it could be magnets on the fridge, but it's probably not. There's a bed that's like, I don't even know, is that a bed frame that's like completely, that's not even a mattress, that's a bed frame that's completely torn and shredded and probably needs replacing. So you see the steel, like there's tiles and then there's a steel kitchen, which is rare, right? But in Aboriginal communities, when the government builds housing, they will often use steel everything, like steel cupboards and steel shelving. They avoid using timber because it's frequently burnt. It's used for firewood, and so to avoid that, they use steel, which is a lot more expensive. And is these mattresses or blankets on the floor at the front. There's graffiti. Otherwise, the house actually looks intact. Like the actual structure of the house is sound. I'm not, to be fair. There's rubbish, there's bottles, there's plastic, there's cartons. I can't even recognize what some of this stuff is. Okay, so what is he saying here? Let's just go back and you know, because people are just so angry, they're up in arms, they're like, oh, you know, his granddaughter was adopted and now he's asking for more money. But this is probably, he's an old man. This is something he's probably said many times, and he's sort of just, you know how old people kind of fall into like a narrative format where they just give you the same narration over and over again. This is what's happening here. I don't think it's like he's calculating and, oh yeah, I'm going to use this moment to blame white people. I don't think that's what's happening. I think this is something he's probably thought about and said many times. So let's just go a little bit back to what he's saying. People here. Oh. Yes, love. Oh no. Oh, I wonder why. Yeah, the audio's on. No. Apparently we have no audio from the browser, sorry. Left mic. But it's coming through to me. I'm getting the audio. I'm getting the audio to me. Okay. I can just do the best I can, I suppose. Alright. Okay. Thanks, bye. Yeah, I've been told the audio is not working, so but you can see the subtitles. We people are here likely to live. Likely? Okay, let's go back. What is he actually saying here? Is he saying, I don't quite get it. People are likely to live like a white man. People are likely to live like that. This is where like the miscommunication kind of starts, and it's just sort of it's in every layer of the interaction between Aboriginal people and white people, other people who come to Australia. It's so hard like to even know what is he saying here. You're saying you come to Alice Springs to live like a white man. You're saying you come and move into this government house because you want to live like a white man. Is that? I don't think that's probably not what he means, but I can't fully understand. So he says the white man has a different attitude. They don't want to give money. They don't want to know about us. I think saying that they don't want to know about us is true. I think it's quite true. I think for the most part, white people just want to stay away from Aboriginal people. They just avoid them. They don't know anything about them except what they are forced, like the government makes those. So there are those more in power that then push it and kind of force it, and then in school you learn about it, and so you're kind of forced to learn it, but you don't care about it otherwise. So I think that is sort of true. To say that white people don't give money is like, there is that sort of expectation, like, wait a second, why don't you give us money? But obviously in his perspective, in his mind, well, there's no money being given, but people are like, well, wait a second. People are so angry, they're like, but we pay so much money, like so much taxpayer money goes to Aboriginal causes and communities and things like that. But it might, to in his perspective, he's not seeing that. He doesn't see that. And I think sometimes we just have to step back and go, okay, in his perspective, that's what it is. There's a dilapidated house. There's maybe no furniture. There's no upkeep. There's nothing. And in his mind, he probably thinks, well, why can't they have such an abundant wealth. Why can't they just give it to us? Like if they go into like a city, even like Darwin, you go to like the inner parts of Darwin or like any suburb in Australia, really, any suburb that's not very run down or bad, and you think, well, there's so much wealth. Everyone's got a nice car. Everyone's got a nice fence. Everyone's got a nice, windows with blinds and couches behind there, and the TV is going like everyone has, and there's such an abundance of wealth. And I think the idea in Aboriginal culture is well, if you have a respect relationship, you owe that person, if they ask you for something, you have to give it to them. It's not, the idea of possession is quite different. Quite different. Maybe you can possess a dog, you can possess like your biological family, like that is not alienable as far as I know. Your child, your mom, your dad, something like that. But objects, they're not seen as part of who you are, or like something, they're just fleeting things. But maybe a warrior would have like a spear or something like that. But even then, how long do you have the same spear or the same tool? How long do you have the same things that are all made from natural materials? Well, as soon as they chip or break, you just make another one, right? Like it just goes back into nature and then you make it again. So a very short time ago, that's how Aboriginal people lived. And so they just never developed a sense of property. And even then, a sense of property, even within Eurasia, a sense of property might be quite different between different people. Hi, darling.
Do you want me to fix the audio?
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's a little...
Sorry, there's
No, it's not sweet. There's like a little crossed out. Is it this thing? No.
Sorry, we've got to go. Sorry.
No, it's a nice interruption.
Nice interruption.
Oh. Done?
Let you know.
Well, good, because, yeah, otherwise I have to read out. Thank you, love. Well, that's a bit better. Now you can hear, too. It's not just me listening to it. But, yeah, I'm sort of just... I think we've just got to be sympathetic. I'm not saying give endless amounts, or if there's a demand, give. I'm not saying that. But being sympathetic to that way of thinking. And also, what are they told their whole lives? Are they raised with that expectation? Where's the expectation coming from that they'll be given everything, that they'll be looked after, that everything will be okay? And I think a lot of us are raised like that too. There is this sort of mindset in our people, in our culture, that, oh, well, if you ever don't work, you get unemployment benefits, and if you're ever sick, you go to hospital, and if something happens, if you break your leg, you go to an emergency room. But then the reality hits you when you're an adult. Oh, wait, actually, there are people who want to rip me off. Oh, wait, actually, I might not be able to afford a house, even on an income, even on one full income, even on two full incomes. Oh, maybe I won't be able to have a child if I want a child. Maybe something's wrong with my body and I can't have a child. Like, I think there is that disillusionment that happens, and I think it's not at 20 years old. It's not at 15. It's later than that people get disillusioned, and it's like, oh, well, maybe every friend just wants me for something, and maybe friendship doesn't go that deep. Like, things like that. I think you get to 25, you get to 30, you get to 35, and people get disillusioned. And maybe this is his disillusionment that he's describing there.
They think that we are still an animal.
Let me get that right. They think that we are still an animal. He's saying the white man thinks that we're still animals, basically. Once again, you could see how he would come to that conclusion. You can sort of see it. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know his experience. I don't know his life experiences. What did he experience as a boy, as a young person? What is it from a book? Did he learn this? Did other white people tell him this? Where's he getting this from? Audio's coming through. Thank gosh. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so it hurts to hear that he feels that way, but you can see where that would be coming from as well. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look what else we can look at in this case, because that was like the briefest little film around the house, but you could see the house was in a really poor condition, which is what people are complaining about. And it feels like a little bit of a switch up to me. I'm just going to say the house is dilapidated. It actually wasn't broken. There was actually nothing broken in the house. Like the walls and everything was intact, but people are saying, okay, it's not clean, it's not up to my standards. Like, but that is your culture as well. Keeping a floor clean and putting a carpet on it and maybe putting a couch there that's your culture. Why would you assume that one of the most different cultural groups in the world would share your culture, your specific culture? We just think that it's just normal. And people live in their cultural bubble so much that they think, well, this is just how it's done. But it's not. But it's not when you live in a climate that is like super cold at night, burning hot in the day, monsoon rain. Do you really think people who've lived for thousands of years with rain seasons, like where it's raining and raining and raining, that they're going to have furniture like made with cloth and like cushioning? It doesn't make sense. It will all go moldy. There's no point like building a beautiful armchair. Any kind of furniture you put out in those conditions, it's going to get completely wrecked. You'd have to have the house. So the house, having the roof, that technology then allows for the evolution of all these other cultural things that have to be in the dry, right? And same with clothing. Oh, you think it's normal to have, a drying rack? I mean, dryers are more recent also, right? But drying rack, you have like a roof over there. You have like your little clothespin, like you have all this stuff. You have this detergent. You know exactly what kind of detergent to use for what. These are all cultural features. There's all culture. A child doesn't know that instinctually. Has to be taught that. And you evolve with new technology. You evolve a culture around that. We have a big culture around washing, hanging, drying clothes. I mean, you go to like an old city in Europe and you see the clotheslines over the top of the alleys. The old ladies are hanging their laundry up there, and it's beautiful. You have this sort of, I can think of this sort of, there was some old cartoon where there's like a lady out hanging laundry and it's like a bunny rabbit, and it's all just cute. It's such a romantic, deep part of our culture. But you could step back from that and say, well, if you don't wash your clothes, if you don't have a culture around cleanliness of clothes, will you actually you'll get sores on your body? Because if I just wore this shirt for like a week, I would start, it's not just smell, it's not just gross. It would be worse than that. It would be like potential bacterial infections. I could potentially pass that on to my children. I could become really dangerous. So there's a culture that evolves around technology, is what I'm trying to say. And when you completely switch out the kind of technology that people are using, and you're like, oh, well, here's a whole different set of technologies, their culture is not going to be adapted to deal with that. But they are adapted to deal with a whole different set of circumstances. Alice, okay, that's the riots. There was riots in Alice Springs after that. Brute abducts and kills 5-year-old Aboriginal girl. The fellow Aboriginals nearly beat him to death. So they actually found him and nearly beat him to death. So there's a video of this as well. Obviously there's nothing too graphic in there. Aussie police rescue him and take him to hospital. And they put him into hospital, and then there's a riot in front of the hospital, and they demand, this is the Aboriginal community that's local there, they demand police turn him over for Aboriginal justice. It's very exciting. It's very exciting times, and it's very interesting to see like when you cut to the chase, when things actually are happening. It's all good to say, welcome to country, this and that, respect the elders, blah, blah, but when the elders actually are like there, the culture is there, the community is there, saying, hey, we want this, we want to live out our culture in a certain way, we want to do, enforcing your culture's morality is really essential to having any kind of culture. You can't exactly be like, these are our cultural norms, but oh, we can't enforce them, we can't do anything about them, we're not ever going to enforce them in any way. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. They're going to have their forms of justice, just like any culture does. And they're saying, we want to enforce our forms of justice for a crime against our community. Obviously, the crime against this little girl. So here's a picture of the perpetrator. Yeah, sus. The eyes are a bit sus here.
But what ended here had started here, on the outskirts of Alice. After 5 days as a fugitive, 47-year-old Jefferson Lewis bloodied and bashed after turning himself in, not to the police, but to his people.
So he turned himself into his people. It sort of tells you like how difficult the environment. You can't probably just live out there near Alice Springs. It's probably just too tough. He really probably just felt like he couldn't get away. Maybe he didn't have a car for some reason and he just felt like he couldn't get away and he turned himself in. Okay, that was, I wonder what thought, I would love to know what thought processes got him to do that.
Was unconscious. Mr. Lewis was subject to a sustained attack.
So were detectives on the scene soon after.
You mother, you're dead.
Lewis was
There's that moment where it's really hard to see. Let's go back. Looks to me, it's really hard to see in this lighting, but looks to me like a skinnier bloke. And he's like, we got him, we got him. They're like hunting for him. They were so happy to find him so they could bash him. This is like kind of heartwarming, I'm not gonna lie.
Mother, you're dead.
Lewis was driven under police escort.
Wait a second, wait a second.
You mother, you're dead.
You, N-word, you're dead. So but they're proud of it. They're like, look, here he is, we got him, we got it. Like, to them, it's just common sense. Like, obviously, he's committed a horrific crime that affects our whole community. Because you got to remember, they often have very large families. Like, they consider your mum's sisters, all of her children. Let's say your mum has 2 sisters, and let's say each of them has 4 children, which would be about the sort of birth rate you would expect in an Aboriginal community. They will all be consider your brothers and sisters, so you would call them brother or sister. And there could be, so even if your mother only has, let's say, 2 sisters who are her full sisters, because there is plural marriage in Aboriginal communities, your grandfather probably has married other wives, and now I have to think how that works. But it ends up being like they might have 20 sisters and brothers and sisters, or 30, and then they have like, it can be an enormous amount. And I'm not necessarily talking like direct blood siblings, but that also because their father may very well also have been in a polygamous situation. And so if each woman has an average of 4 children and he has like 3, 4, 5 wives, it's very extensive, and they have a whole system of referring to each other that keeps track of that, because it's so hard to keep track of. You just can't. It's so mind-boggling, but they do that through their terminology and how they deal with that. So this sort of thing is going to affect a vast number of people, and it's going to feel quite direct to them because of how they don't have a nuclear family the way that we consider. The way that's really only normal in like northwestern Europe, which is very specific, really, you know.
Lewis was driven under police escort straight to the hospital, but the fury followed. 400.
How clever is that? They're like picking up sand and throwing it. Like, that's very lethal. I mean, not lethal, obviously, but that would be terrible to get sand in your eyes. It's almost like a pepper spray, but just more natural. I love that.
In all.
No place for no.
See, why are they blurring this out? Who are we protecting by blur? Did he say no place for pedophiles here? Is that what he said? Because I think that's what he said. It started with P. But once again, why are we trying to censor out this part of the story and like protecting this? It's very bizarre, and this is what our culture is doing. This is our culture. Their culture is not doing that. Their culture's like, let's say it straight up. Like, let's do our punishments straight up. Let's get it over with. And we're saying, no, we have to censor, we have to protect everyone's face, everyone's identity. We're not allowed to know anything. It's all private. That's our culture. I'm not sure I side with our culture on this.
And they weren't done yet.
They're protecting him.
At the Alice Springs Hospital.
See, that's obviously they filmed a lot and then they clipped certain statements out, and that's how they edit it, but they're protecting him. I mean, that's kind of true. They are. They were going to kill him. He wasn't probably going to survive that. So they are protecting him. This is white people culture. You want to be, oh, but we have clean walls and clean floors. Oh, we put nice furniture on our houses. Yeah, that's great. That is a lovely evolved culture you have there over, you know, thousands of years of living in cold climates. We also have a culture that protects criminals and gives them hospital care, you know?
Situation critical.
You will be free!
A kind of chaos our nation rarely ever.
Like, who's the craziest person here? This dude was just like the craziest person. Everyone's like, oh, Aboriginals always writing, you know, people have such low opinion of the Aborigines. And who's the craziest person on camera here?
Kind of chaos our nation rarely ever knows. For Alice Springs police, it was a choice of run or hide.
They're dragging this guy across the ground. Can you just not do that? You can just not do that. You can just not stand in between an angry crowd trying to get justice and revenge on a horrible criminal. You can just not be there. You can just not be like, yeah, I'm gonna enforce this. You can just not do that.
Tear gas and rubber bullets. No match for this mob. Their burly front row ever pushed back. At the service station across the street, more fuel to the fire.
So we currently have staff from the Shell service station in fear. They're locked in.
As police lucked out.
We're going to set them on fire.
They did.
So, are we talking about the cars? I think we're talking about cars being put on fire. I can't even tell by that video. Like, there's just flames between the car and the building. You know, you're making... I'm not defending the attack on businesses and infrastructure here, but people are saying, well, we can't carry out the justice that we want to carry out. It's nice and good to say, oh, we respect your culture, we respect your customs, blah, blah, and then all this stuff constantly every single day. And yet when they have something important to do in their culture, in their own community, we prevent them with guns. They're there with guns, preventing them from carrying out their cultural customs and traditions.
That car destroyed. 4 more damaged and all but one of the ambulance fleet completely wiped out.
This is the staff cars. They didn't deserve this.
It was 5 hours of anarchy. As for that service station,
Obviously, not everyone reacts this way. Not everyone goes... Most cultural groups, like my cultural group, we would not respond like that for the most part. For the most part. Maybe once you get to Scotland and Ireland, you get a little bit of this sort of thing. Once you go down to like England, you go down to like Germany, like these places, you're not going to get this sort of behavior. But also it means that if you are part of a cultural group that's not completely aligned with the government, the state of wherever you are, and you are a minority, which you can find yourself being a minority somewhere, you're just suppressed and you just don't get to live out your culture anymore. And so that part of your culture just goes away. And that's what happens. And at least these people are putting up a fight.
a shell it was, gutted and looted.
The swearing, seriously. I'm trying to like keep it clean, keep the language clean, and then yeah, it's just not that easy. Massive outbreak of violence in Alice Springs last night as a mob of 400 people. That is a lot of people. I'm so surprised. Tried to storm the hospital where the accused child killer Jefferson Lewis hospitalized. I think we've seen this video, but we're gonna this might be sent through as well. Yeah, we've seen this. They're just pepper spraying the air in front of themselves. Just so aggressive.
You will be free! Get back! Get back! Get back!
police with like the balaclava and the. Wait a second. That doesn't look like police. No, it is. They're all running together and they all have these pouches. They are like very. Like, are they ready to just like go into the desert on like a mission? Like, what are they carrying? Their lunch? What is going on here? This is crazy. See, I think a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, yeah, the white man's like standing up for himself. It's like us versus them. But they're not going after, of course there are anti-white sentiments in the Aboriginal community, I'm sure of it, but, and as we heard earlier from Grandpa, but that's not the goal of what they're trying to do. They're trying to enforce justice within their own community. They're actually trying to chastise and keep in control their own community. Kind of a good thing. Kind of a good thing. Maybe not. It's always the thing where in an Anglo society where you start getting like, yeah, you get real manly, you're getting your guns out, you get your ammunition, like this like you just never see, like otherwise you're just like sipping tea and like being kind and like dropping your kids in perfect uniform to school. Like that's Anglo society. But when they get really fired up and really angry and like getting their guns out, get the ammunition, you get like the manliness coming out of the Anglo man. It's always just to oppress another culture and be like, no, you must be more like my culture because I want to integrate you into my culture. It's like, is that what you're fighting for? Are you going to fight like that? Is any man going to fight like that to defend local women and children from any kind of abuse? Are they going to fight like that to defend their own wife or children from abuse? I doubt it. I doubt it. And yeah, welcome to the Anglosphere. That's what you get. We're nearly done. And there's a whole bunch of other topics we're going to talk about as well, which I'm really excited about. Topher Field says, let me ask with an E at the end, ask her. The unaskable question. If respecting Indigenous culture is so important, why are white oppressive colonisers denying Indigenous Australians their version of justice? 100% exactly right. This is what I'm saying. The victim is Indigenous, the accused is Indigenous, the crime was in an Indigenous community, and the mob gathered outside the hospital is made up mostly or perhaps entirely of Indigenous people. But we're imposing white man colonial oppressive ideas like innocent until proven guilty, like a jury of your peers, like having a day in court and a proper defence and not being murdered before trial by a mob of angry locals. Where are the lefties who supported The Voice, the ones who condemn us if we question the Welcome to Country? Those who insist that Indigenous culture is inherently virtuous because it got here first, and English civilization is inherently evil because it took over later. Where are they? When will they speak up in support of handing the accused over to the angry mob, which apparently they were demanding? Because right now, members of the Indigenous community would like to carry out their culturally appropriate form of justice in this case, and it's the evil white man who is stopping them. How dare we? But actually, the real question is, if we're all going to agree that Western justice is more civilized, that mob justice isn't acceptable even in such an emotionally charged case as this one, then doesn't that mean that we should also be allowed to ask whether perhaps Western civilization is better in other ways too? Doesn't it beg the question whether English civilization actually improved Australia? These are really important questions. I'm not actually... I think saying that English civilization improved Australia it doesn't make any sense. It came to Australia and established itself in Australia. That's like saying, if I go into my neighbour's yard and just stand there, have I now improved the the neighbor's property. Like, it sort of just doesn't make sense. Like, if I just put my tent up in my neighbor's yard and start camping there and cooking and, you know, maybe like shooting some birds and like, you know, I'm not really improving or diminishing my neighbors. I have no real ability to improve or diminish them. It doesn't really make sense. I can only establish my own life and multiply my own life. Angry Aussie 3 says, would enforcing justice lawfully in their own community justify other groups wanting to do the same? This would be chaos if every group could punish as they see fit. Yeah, totally. Like, totally. And that's what I think English culture is good at. That it's good at being a colonizer culture that then integrates people, and it's also good at like picking really smart people and like bringing them up in society, and like it's really good at, you know, putting railways everywhere and like creating prosperity and potential for industry and putting education in places. It's good. Like, English culture is good at that. But what the English derived populations need to worry about now is, are we good at defending ourselves? Are we good at defending our own children? Are we good at defending the integrity of our civilization at all? As you can see, is falling apart in England, and a lot of people look to Australia with shock and horror. And in the US, English civilization is quite diluted. I mean, they did separate themselves like really willfully and stuff like that, but you could still say it's like, you could say it's a very heavily like genetically and culturally English population, but less and less so also, and less so for a long time, with German immigrants, Italian immigrants, and so forth, and Greeks and all that stuff. Over time it gets diluted. Like, it's just very obvious. But yeah, I think it's a conversation. If you're gonna have a multicultural society, it is a really, it's a question to talk and to think about and to put potential, you know, why can't we just talk about this? Like, let's just speak about this and go through scenarios, and maybe people can put proposals and say, you know, oh, we're the whatever community and we like to do things this way. But it is that hypocrisy. And I think there is more contrast than, like, let's say if you're Chinese or Indonesian, okay, yes, your culture is different to the base culture of Australia that's Anglo, but it's still going to be way more similar than the Aboriginal culture, and you still have a home base, you have something you can refer back to, and the Aboriginal culture, that this is it. They're here. This is their home base. They can't just, oh, let's just bring in some Aboriginals from original Aboriginal country. Well, it doesn't really work like that. This is here. This is their country. This is where they are. If you destroy certain cultural aspects, it's very hard to bring them back. It's probably close to impossible to bring them back, kind of like with the languages. A lot of their languages have gone extinct, and it's really difficult to bring them back. And it's really hard to raise a child up speaking a language, even if it's a second or third language, if there's no native speakers of that language. It's really tricky and difficult. You just sort of want to keep things alive. And I think it's like, do we have a commitment to keeping up, to assisting at least in keeping Aboriginal culture intact to some degree in some places? Like, do we actually have a commitment to that? You know, this really contrasts without the behavior here suggests, well, probably not very much, or only certain aspects that don't clash and interfere with the Western justice system and so forth, which is also sort of fair. I can understand it, but I just think it sort of taps into a larger conversation of, does Western civilization, that's kind of what he's saying here, like he's saying, is Western civilization perhaps better in many ways? And I think that is sort of something we need to grapple with. It's just sort of been assumed, like our grandparents and great-grandparents would just strutted around streets. It's just, of course we are the best culture, like of course we have the upper hand, of course we have the best people, of course we have the best technology, of course our job to uplift everyone else. There's this sort of, I think that is really been put into question. I think we're already past that, but people's mentality has to catch up to that. You know, really, do we have much on East Asia at this point? and other parts of the world too. Are we really that righteous? Do we really have... And I'm not saying I know the answer to all those questions. I don't. I just think it needs to be discussed. Like, do we have the best of some things? I definitely think so. Do we have the best justice systems and things like that? Probably yes. Do we have problems with genetic deterioration and massive obesity and things like that? Yeah, we do. Like, do we have problems with demoralization and all these sort of things, and just people being just not living their lives in an ideal way? I definitely think we do. And I definitely think we need to confront probably ourselves and our own culture before we confront other cultures about how they do things. All right. I think that was almost the last link on that topic. Alice Springs supermarket hit hard. Whilst the chaos was unfolding down the road at the hospital and service station, the supermarket was hit hard. I think we saw that. Didn't we see the picture of that? A large amount of alcohol was stolen. The rear door was smashed. 25 to 30 people were running into the store through the smashed back door. Police and security could not attend due to what was happening at the hospital. They had to secure with pallets and forklift to stop them getting in. Okay. So basically just terrorizing the local shop owners and things like that, which is not ideal at all. It's not ideal. I don't think any of this is really thought through or planned. All right. Moving on from this topic, we talked about this sort of from a variety of perspectives. A man went through his girlfriend of 5 years. Okay, 5 years is quite a long time. Phone and found out she was texting 22 different guys every day while living with him. Oh. But where's the... Oh no! It's been taken down. Oh, that's so annoying. You click on something like 2 days later and it's no longer there. It's pretty bad. Like, it's pretty bad to be talking to a bunch of men. But yeah, the way he reacts was really at the top. Anyway, if I can't see the video, there's really no point talking about it. The Daily Wire fires half of its staff in mass layoffs. This comes after co-founder Ben Shapiro has lost 85% of his YouTube audience since last year. That was really a little too late, wasn't it? It was just... I mean... The eyebrows... The voice, I can just hear it. Yeah, it's crazy. People used to be like, oh yeah, well, Ben Shapiro said this, Ben Shapiro said that, and you'd get people like saying things that Ben Shapiro said, you'd be like, okay. So, you know, it's good to see something's come to an end, isn't it? I think the whole Gaza thing really harmed this kind of conservative, it's not Christian Zionist, like he is openly Jewish, but this kind of conservative Zionist mood and perspective, I think it just seems to be losing traction. It just doesn't seem to be doing well. In a new German study, higher IQ people are better at judging the intelligence of others. Participants in this study watched short videos of 50 people reading a weather report and explaining the concept of symmetry. In addition to IQ, raters' emotional perception and life satisfaction were positively correlated with the ability to judge other people's intelligence. It's like, okay. Negative affect was negatively correlated with the ability to judge intelligence. The best cues of intelligence were the target's articulation and the content of their speech, how sophisticated, accurate, insightful, and elaborate the speaker was. This study is consistent with evolutionary theories that suggest that signaling one's own intelligence and identifying those signals is advantageous. Finally, the study shows that it takes one to know one. So that's interesting. So basically, if you're low intelligence, you're not going to have a very easy time judging other people's intelligence. But if you're high intelligence, you're going to have an easier time doing so, which makes sense. And that shows a bunch of numbers, which I'm not going to bore you with. Oh my goodness. Donald Trump sharing the cringiest memes. What is this? So Donald J. Trump's post. It's the Statue of Liberty giving birth to mini Trump and wrapped in a flag. There's no community note on here that this is not him posting it. Trump dressed as Jesus, like blessing mini Trump. What is it? What? Like, how many layers are in this joke? What is in the sky? What is that thing in the sky? Are those the insurrectionist, like, protesters? What? That would be at least kind of cool. It's probably not. It's probably not, because that would be cool and Trump wouldn't post that, right? There's a nurse praying. There's these, like, Zionist soldiers, I guess. There's an eagle. I don't know if you can even see that because my picture's in front of it. There's an eagle cutting the umbilical cord. This is just so obscene. This is so deranged and disgusting. And then John Burshid says, bro needs to retire from public and private life. Yes. Please retire. Please. Like, he would never have done this as a younger man, right? Like, he would just be in touch with the culture a little bit, like, get kind of the vibes. He's an out of touch old man. Like, he's just getting crazy. That's not funny. Like, what? What are you even referencing here? What are you referencing? What? There's like 10 different references in this one picture. You meant to be like, oh, yeah, bro, what? Smoking kills, says Cremieux. Cigarette sales and lung cancer mortality in the US. And it's so beautiful. It's beautifully correlated. Look at that. Cigarette sales, lung cancer, just following. Is it like 2 decades later? Yeah, about 2 decades after cigarette sales are a certain way, lung cancer deaths are a certain way. Oh. It does seem to be pretty clear, but some people advocate for nicotine consumption and things like that. Maybe do it without smoking. Daniel De Martino says, Australia has shut down elderly migration of parents ASAP before it overwhelms their pension health system. Parents currently make up the largest portion of permanent visa applications. Partners are the second largest. Skilled independent is the smallest by far. So we used to have like very much skilled, like highly skilled immigration, and that's obviously shifted and shifting. So this graph shows you the green part of the graph is the parent. So people coming out, is it a parent visa? I don't know if it's what it's called. It must be something to do with family, relative, reuniting people. I think it's good that families are together. I'm not even hating this too much. People are just worried about the burden it's going to put on taxpayers. Yeah, how do you do that? This is like the largest bracket by far, and we have a lot of immigration, so that's nuts. Yeah, nah. The whole argument is always, well, you know, people aren't having enough kids. We need to like bring in, you know, young people to work. It's like you're bringing in, yeah, a young couple or maybe a middle-aged couple and their elderly parents. We're just increasing the population, not even in a direction that would be advantageous. Like, if anything, it's going to skew more towards older, which is exactly what you would expect when you let Asian immigrants come in, because they have usually a slightly older demographic structure is just nuts. It's nuts. They're just gonna be old, be okay for a while, and then start consuming so many health services and aged care services and things like that. Nuts. You basically need to live your life as if you don't have a guaranteed pension, aged care, perhaps even healthcare. You just need to sort of live your life like in this way where you're just prepared for, I guess, the worst. You just do not depend on society and on the government to look after you when you're over the age of 50. It's just, it could happen, it could not happen. I wouldn't depend on it. I definitely wouldn't depend on it. Something strange is happening, very strange, with self-reported height among men, says Steve Stewart Williams. There aren't enough 5'11" men, but there are too many 6-foot men. So men, self-report when asked about how tall are you without shoes, and an unusual amount of them report to be 6 foot. It's almost like they like that number. It's almost like there's something about that number that they like, and they don't want to be 5'11". So 5'11" is just crashed. But when they're 5'10", they're like, I guess I've got to be honest about it. Okay. That sucks, you know. You just sort of, you'd like to think you're in a society where there's people just tell the truth and that's just like their normal mode, but it's not. This is interesting. Myron Gaines. But which one of these is Myron Gaines? I'm so bad. They all look the same to me. It's terrible. Okay. He's commenting on it. He posted it. He's commenting on it. He's not. This is not Myron Gaines. Okay.
Woman. I did that too. We broke up.
Sure.
Okay. And why didn't you get another one and another one and another one until you found?
No.
Okay. They're obviously African American, talking about African American dating scene. It's really interesting. I love just the way these people interact. It's great.
Or you're a bunny hopper?
Yes. Per your whole.
That's what.
You're a bunny hopper. Probably means you like white women or you have a white girlfriend.
Why
That's
you
not
have
true.
a liberal
That's
perspective.
not true. That's not,
because you go home to a white
true.
woman.
Yes, but that's not true. I felt this way before I met my white girlfriend.
So help me understand how you could be so passionate about the black.
I'm passionate. I'm an objective thinker. I don't. If something makes sense,
So you have no loyalty to the black community.
No, I do.
It's so convoluted, isn't it? It's hard to. Okay, we gotta pick this up. He's saying, basically, we disagree ideologically. Why do you feel passionate? He's saying, where's this coming from? Why do you feel strongly about African American causes or something like this? And he's trying to tell him that he's objective. I can think and I'm objective. Okay.
I probably employ more blacks than you.
Okay, so help me understand that you employ more blacks than me, but you go home to a white woman. Why you don't have a black woman?
Because I fell in love with a white woman, not a black.
So he's saying, I do things for the black community. He's obviously trying to elevate his social status in this situation and saying, no, like I help the black community by employing them. He's saying, but you're not married to one, you're not with one. It makes sense. Like you can see where he's coming from.
Why didn't you fall in love with a black woman?
I fell in love with a black woman. We broke up.
Okay, and why didn't you fall in love with another black woman?
I did that too. We broke up.
Okay. And why didn't you get another one and another one and another one until you found the right one?
Because I met a white woman that I fell in love with, and that's the person that
and
I'm
you're
with
being
today.
disingenuous about
That's not
something.
true.
And let me tell you what you're being disingenuous about.
Shoot.
Romance is a function of focus and opportunity. If I want to date an Asian, I'm going to put myself around Asian women so I can find one. If I want to date a Latino, I'm going to put myself around Latino women so I can date one. If you wanted to marry a...
There's a lack of eye contact, except exactly in this frame that I just froze, but like the whole time, for so long, he has a lack of eye contact. He's very defensive, he's tense, and he's not looking at the interlocutor. It's very interesting. He's not happy. He's really not happy with him. And I think he's really trying to make his argument Yeah, he's really upset, and I think there is that minority. I think it's a minority of the African American community that feels quite strongly about marrying within their own community, including Barack Obama, because he went out specifically to find a black woman, and he did, and that's why he's correct. Like, if you specifically go out, like if you put your mind to it, and Yellow Jumper Dude is kind of correct here. You have to interact and be with and kind of get comfortable with someone to end up romantically. If you just dismiss that person straight away, he's saying you should just dismiss any white woman straight away because she's not black. But also look at the brown jumper guy here. He's clearly not that black. He's like probably half as black as this black guy with the yellow jumper on. So his loyalties are not going to be as clear cut, and his whole culture and mentality might be a lot more in the middle. He might be a lot more comfortable in mixing with both communities, and that's not something that this guy he is acknowledging, and neither of them actually acknowledge this, and that sucks. It's like so obvious.
Black woman, you would have put yourself around black women so you can find one. So how did you end up with the Caucasian? No disrespect to her.
No, not at all. What I'm telling you is the places that I go socially are not just monolithic.
So what? I went to a white college, white job. I never bunny hopped.
Listen to my question. Let me answer you. That wasn't my priority. My priority wasn't, I'm not closed off to dating Latino women. I'm not closed off to dating Asian women. I'm not closed off to dating white women. So again, in my search for romance, all of those things were on the table.
But you do understand that by not being with a black woman, you undermine the success of the black community.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion. Then tell me how.
Okay, this is the key point. By not being with a black woman, you undermine the success of the black community. This is like the key thing. And it's really good that he said it like that, and he really tried to make his point. And brown jumper guy's trying to interrupt him. Like, it's honestly, he's not hearing him out, and that sucks. There is this thing that is observed and talked about where black men who have success in business, art, whatever they're doing, will not marry black women, and they'll marry outside of that. And so basically, there's a point that can be made that he doesn't really make it quite as well as that. He's trying to say, well, we're pulling, literally pulling money, but you could say also genes and talent out of the pool, out of the black community. Because those resources now are not going to go to black children, are they? And that particular parent who might be particularly intelligent or insightful is not going to put the investment of parenting into black children. So he is kind of correct here. That is a scary thing to think that you're part of a community. As soon as someone has success, they marry outside of that community. That's quite a frightening place to be, and I can't quite imagine. This might happen to white communities at some point. In some places, I can sort of see that we might go the same way, but we're not there yet.
How the black community benefits from you having a white woman.
If I lend to the financial
uplifting
of that community, one, that's one thing. Two, if I'm helping to educate the people in that particular community, that's a benefit.
Does not your white woman benefit more from your economics than any black person?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. He's right. He's right here. I've never defended black people so much as today. Today, I'm sitting here all day. I don't even mean to. It's just happening. It's just, I don't really, there's nothing scripted here. I'm just calling a spade. Of course, the white woman benefits more from his wealth and his prosperity than any black person. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And so will his children, right?
Yeah, probably.
Exactly.
So why can't they both be mutually beneficial?
You want to know why? Because she belongs to the group that is responsible for the historical oppression of your race.
So
why would you voluntarily go over and marry into that? Because when you marry the woman,
Whoa.
you don't just marry the woman or date the woman. You're dating her community and her culture. And given the history of us and them, why would you dare align yourself with that if you care about us?
Let me ask you a question. I want you to let me get my answers out.
Go ahead.
So hypothetically, if you're in one tribe, I'm in another tribe. That tribe is responsible for killing some people in your family.
Okay.
I will say in response to what he said there as well, it's surprising to see that the historical grievance is so strong in some people. It's just sort of something I'm not confronted with much at all in my life. I don't sort of see that. But that is very strong for him. He obviously... Wow, it's sort of crazy to see that. And he's not... I mean, obviously, I don't share those grievances, but I think the mistake he's making is he's saying, well, I feel... He feels really strongly about it. And it's sort of, well, but you should feel the same way. But he doesn't feel that way. But look at him. He's from a different family. He looks completely different. He's a different ethnic mix. They're actually, for the most part, you could say they're a different ethnicity, really. It's just kind of, there is this exaggerated brotherhood in African American culture. And there's something, it's kind of sweet. It's nice to feel connected. It's nice to care about people and to have a sense of extending sort of kinship and friendship to people in how you communicate. But you've got to realize that that's just, it's not that accurate. Everyone who's even just, 15, 20 or 30% African is going to be, you're going to call them the N-word and call them bro and act like you're related. Well, it doesn't quite work like that. You still have different lineages, different families, different cultures, different grievances, different emotions, different attitudes, different personalities, And I think that's where white people, we've figured that out. I think most white people, we have figured out, well, we're actually not that similar. And an Italian is quite different to an English person. And we know that and we feel that and we interact in a way where we acknowledge that. We don't all try to call each other brother or sister. And then be surprised if people have different motivations and things like that.
Okay. We're going to keep it right here. You're a Crip. I'm a Blood.
Okay.
You're responsible for killing some of my people for the last 30, 40 years. I'm responsible for killing some of your people for the last 30, 40 years. I'm going to judge you because you're a Blood or you're a Crip based on all of the shit that your peoples and your crew did for the last 30, 40 years, or am I going to judge you based on who you are?
I understand your analysis, but here's where I disagree with your analysis. Although your white girlfriend, and probably none of her family owned a slave, you understand?
They're from Portugal.
Hung an African. They're from Portugal. Although the Portuguese were some of the first ones in the slave trade.
Are the very
absolutely. They built most of the dungeons in Africa.
Sure indeed.
So I know she got racism in her veins because of the Portuguese role in the slave trade. But anyhow, let's say.
It's like, well, she's Portuguese to make it better. It makes it much worse. He's so much more angry. But yeah. Wow. There are really people out there who just learn all about this stuff and it's a huge grievance for them. Like, fair, But sometimes these sort of ethnic grievances, you might say, well, what's the point? You just make yourself unhappy, make yourself miserable, make yourself angry. But I think it can serve a positive function as well. You can sit with someone and really bond and relate, because I think sometimes it's almost like that kind of camaraderie that people get in war, but it's like inducing some of those emotions between you and someone that you meet, where you say, oh yeah, like we share the same oppressor, we are being victimized by this other group, it's us versus them, and then suddenly you're bonding in a way that you just don't otherwise bond. And I think that's where white people don't have it figured out. We don't have that figured out. Because we don't do that. And so because we don't share these grievances and we don't create the sort of victimhood mentality and culture, or even like aggressor kind of culture around, or with these kind of people, and we have grievances with this, and the way that he's clearly doing, we miss out on that bonding and that those sort type of relationships. And I think there is a sense of apathy and coldness between white people. And I don't think that other cultures experience that as much, although perhaps the Chinese don't seem to also be like that. They don't seem to rally around each other a lot. They seem to be a little bit apathetic and cold towards each other sometimes, which I find really interesting. All right. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's important to keep in mind that a victimhood narrative on an ethnic level can be a strategy to actually rally that ethnic group around each other and create harmony within the ethnic group. Short women are getting hate online, and it's hilarious. It's funny. I happen to think, and I should say this preemptively because I'm going to be reading some of this, and it's very funny, but I should say preemptively, I do think that short women have an advantage in bearing children. I think they're able to bear more children. I think they're less physically affected, and maybe that's me speaking from ignorance, and I really, really hope it's not. I don't intend that. But having less need of calories, and like it's quite significant. Like just, oh no, I'm out of focus. Oh, I'm back in focus. Oh, that's good. Hello, camera. The amount of calories you need to sustain the extra, it's not just weight, like fat weight. Like if I gained 10 kilos of fat, I wouldn't need as many calories to sustain 10 kilograms of fat as I would 10 kilograms of more bone, height, and also you need a larger brain. A larger body requires a larger brain, and brain eats a lot of energy as well. So it just is which is why people don't get really tall. I know when they get really tall, it's like, wow, what's going on here? Like the Dutch are so tall. Oh, the Chinese are getting really tall. What's going on here? Like it's really good nutrition. It's caring a lot, like getting everything perfectly right from day one with a baby so they never get stunted at any time in their development. It's a lot of red meat, things like that. And of course genetics. So anyway, short people get hate. Short women are getting hate, and I found that interesting because they don't usually get mentioned. Really, no one mentions women and height very much. I really don't think short women get enough hate, says RH. Rational hatred. Physically useless, can't carry or reach anything or defend themselves. Yeah. Statistically proven to be pickier with male height. Interesting, I didn't know that. So short women are like more like, oh, I need a guy to be tall. And tall women are like, I got the tall genes covered. We can be like a little bit more flexible. Less attractive, wider rib cages and shorter limbs. I mean, obviously shorter limbs because they're shorter. Wider rib cages, I don't know, I suppose. I just don't know if that's true. Probably not. They gain weight faster. It will just show more. I don't think short women necessarily gain weight faster, but they will just show it more, way more. And then someone else continues, not to mention short woman, short kids. If a 6 foot tall man has kids with a 5 foot woman, mid-parental height formulas is so nerdy. Says a son would be around 5'8" plus or minus 2 inches. So you're gambling your son's life on him being possibly being 5'6", just so you can enjoy some. I'm not going to repeat that. So there's the mid-parental height formula, widely used by clinicians, is you add the two parents' heights together, then you add 13 centimeters for boys, or 5 inches, or you subtract 13 centimeters for girls, or 5 inches, and then you divide by 2. Most children end up within about 5 centimeters of this value. This treats both parents symmetrically with only a small sex adjustment to account for average male to female height differences. Yeah, that's really interesting. Maternal height often shows associations with child growth patterns, possibly including non-genetic effects like prenatal environment, but paternal height also independently predicts outcomes like birth length. I'll have to sit down with my husband and actually do this on the couch. Be like, okay, how tall are we? How tall? But the thing is, I couldn't tell you if this works or not from my perspective because my children are not fully grown. None of my children are fully grown, so I wouldn't know. But this is interesting. You'd have to do it with a family where the children are already fully grown, like your parents, and then compare it to yourself, that sort of thing. Very interesting. Massimo says, a recent study has demonstrated that continuous exposure to rose essential oil through inhalation can lead to measurable increases in grey matter volume in the human brain. And they used 50 healthy women, and they split the group and had them apply rose essential oil to their clothing daily for 1 month. And the control group used water. And they scanned their brains and saw an increase in grey matter across the whole brain, with a particularly notable effect in the posterior cingulate cortex, a region involved in memory processing, self-referential thinking, and emotional regulation. No significant changes occurred in areas like the amygdala or orbifrontal cortex. So I don't know, for some people that might come in handy. Just try to, I guess you could just go and sniff roses. That'd probably do it. Maybe you could just sniff any flower, I don't know. Roses are sort of intense, aren't they? It's interesting to think that actually has cognitive benefits. And we used to put rose gardens everywhere. Like these fancy palaces had like rose gardens, and there you go. It actually has cognitive benefits. That's great. That's so cool. And they explaining it by saying aromatic compounds from rose oil travel directly to the limbic system, providing sustained stimulation that may promote neuroplasticity and help counteract age-related brain atrophy. Oh, don't we all need that? How great. The High Wire says Dr. William Shaw's lab found that 60-70% of people with autism had an overgrowth of Clostridia and Candida in their intestines, organisms that antibiotics leave behind while killing beneficial bacteria. So you could potentially study one day, like, does using antibiotics lead to high rates of autism? Something like that. Treatments would clear the overgrowth and symptoms would improve, sometimes dramatically. The treatment stopped, then the autism returned along with the candida. So basically you can't permanently treat it currently. The question is why the body wasn't maintaining the clearance on its own. A German study provided a striking piece of the answer. The measles vaccine was found to knock out a children's immunity specifically to candida and only candida, leaving every other immunity function intact. I just don't know. I just don't know if that's true or not. I can't fact check that at all. The implication reached beyond autism. The same Clostridia and Candida pattern showed up across psychiatric diagnoses, and Dr. Shaw's lab documented complete reversal of severe schizophrenia using an antibiotic targeted at bacterial overgrowth. It's good to know. If you know anyone who has this, like, why not try it? If you're legitimately suffering from schizophrenia or severe autism, try to just target these it says antibiotic, but then it's saying antibiotic doesn't target that. So this is, honestly, I'm really unsure about this whole thing. But it's definitely something worth trying. There seems to be links between psychiatric conditions and things wrong in your gut flora. So it's definitely worth trying something in that direction. Lyman Stone says, begging people to remember that historically humans average 2 to 3 children surviving through puberty per woman. Raising 4 or 5 or 6 children to age 18 is far above the human evolutionary norm. So I guess just about, it is like, it's just about remembering that even though women may have given birth to many children, they weren't historically actually raising them all the way up because so many died. Like, it was just like you would have at least double the amount of children of what would end up surviving. And for some people, maybe more than that would have died. There was something stuck in here. We did it. It's not over there. Because yeah, raising that sort of number of children just feels like crazy. It feels unsustainable. We have obviously in modern society with, you have a microwave, you have a kettle that boils. You don't have to literally move the kettle on and off the fire. You just turns off automatically. All these things, these little things, and you think, how did anyone do this before all these conveniences? But I guess any child over the age of 5 or 6 had to do things like stirring in a pot, making sure things are being washed and cleaned and maintained, and I think there is a huge sort of atrophy, sort of cultural atrophy of just doing things, just like, but it's not just, I mean, cultural in a really broad way, where it's like tool use, you know? How many children can navigate, like put a pan on a fire or put a pot on a fire and navigate the temperature of whatever's in it? That's hard to do. I think a lot of adults would really struggle with that. And that's just what people were doing all the time. Like, there's actually kind of complicated physics going on there. And you have to just navigate all these difficult tasks and navigate real danger all the time. And we're sort of not doing a lot of that sort of thing now. There's a relationship between intelligence and dental health. People with high intelligence levels also tend to have good dental health. So I guess there is some truth to that sort of stereotype of just someone who's really down and out having really gappy or rotten teeth. The relationship between cognitive ability and dental status in a national sample of USA adults. Poor cognitive ability was associated with poorer behaviors, lower levels of dental attendance, and high levels of smoking. Okay, that doesn't help. Yeah, that's independent of income and ethnicity. There are different types of bougainvillea vine. I just found that was so random. I found that so interesting because I've always picked the purple and pink ones and I've never picked these other colors. And now I will know when I see a vine with these types of flowers. I guess they all have this triangular leaf structure. I will know that it's all bougainvillea vine. Just interesting to know how many colors it comes in. Anthony Albanese said, getting diagnosed for endo can take years, and women suffer in the meantime. That's true. We're changing that. We've delivered our promise to open 33 endo and pelvic pain clinics, helping women get diagnosed and treated sooner. Our biggest ever investment in women's health is making a real difference across the country. This is actually really good news and really great, and I hope these clinics actually work and do a better job diagnosing people more quickly. We just know so many women. You just cannot go into any social circle without there being at least 1 or 2 women in there that just suffer so much pain from endo. It's terrible. Oh my goodness. Laura Del Pinar says, this is why it's so important to give them educational toys. Also, sorry if I'm not breathing properly, I'm kind of nasal. The ones with shapes that they fit into a cube when they're little. So there's a man, this is like browser. Idiocracy moment. There's a man here who cannot put his suitcase into the overhead compartment. He's trying to put it sideways and it clearly would fit the other way. He's legit
Ladies and
trying
gentlemen, the
again and
captain has
again.
now to unclose the fasten seatbelts as well will be landing in a few minutes. In preparation for our arrival, we are kindly asked you to adjourn to your seats and fasten your seatbelt. Please place your head table into the fully upright position. Open your window.
He actually finally did it. He actually eventually, I think she had to tell him what to do.
Line and store your luggage under the seat in front.
That is nuts. That is nuts. How can you not see? Even if you can't see properly, like, fair enough. You can feel it's not going in. Like, you can derive from that. It's to flip it over. But this is the sort of thing we might be seeing more and more often if we're just not selecting for IQ. Because of, I guess, the Edward Dutton argument is that say that child mortality is so low. Like, no one dies. You can be very stupid and just not die because everything is so safe. You're just living this cushioned life. And then you get people who just don't have cognitive ability to do the most basic things. Just living into adulthood, and this is what you're going to get more and more. Welcome to the future. Short men are more sensitive to dominant signals than other men. Interesting, right? Participant height in centimeters on the x-axis. On the y-axis, mean dominant sensitivity score. I don't know how you'd measure that. it is pretty like cloud-like. Like it's very varied, let's just say. There are some shorter guys who are not that sensitive, right? Like this is really varied. I think that's very important to also say. People are not actually falling onto the line. But still, the study says, because height is a reliable index of men's dominance, we investigate the relationship between one's own height and men's sensitivity to masculine characteristics when judging the dominance of other men's faces and voices. So it's not their height, it's their faces and voices. Although men generally perceive masculine faces and voices to be more dominant than feminized versions, this effect of masculinity on dominance perception was significantly greater among shorter men than among taller men. These findings suggest that differences among men and the potential cost of incorrectly perceiving the dominance of rivals have shaped systemic variations in men's perceptions of the dominance of potential rivals. So I could say basically if you have genetics that make you be short, like you have short genetics, you are also going to be just a lot more tiptoey and careful around other people because I guess when you're wielding weapons, it's not a good idea to be short because you're kind of like under someone else's weapon. Like could that make it just a disadvantage and you can't run as quickly because your legs are short? So you'd better be more careful about how you socialize and carry yourself. A black girl says, I've lost all respect for Japanese people, for the Japanese after translation feature on X. So obviously X now translates posts from different countries, different cultures, different languages, and translates straight to your language. So you can just read. It's so cool. This girl's hating it. She says, this isn't to generalize all Japanese people, but a black 17F, I guess 17-year-old female. I remember being very fascinated and interested in Japan for a long time due to the entertainment, music, and anime. I almost wanted to go there. I love the food and culture. Okay. Yeah, so basically, if you're black, you might not want to be reading Japanese social media posts. They are, yeah. It's going to be a lot more overt racism than what you're used to in a white society. People who walk quickly have an IQ score on average 16 points higher than those who walk slowly. I love these IQ posts. This is so cool. Their faces appear more youthful and their brains also tend to be larger. Because I guess having a larger brain makes you more high IQ, generally speaking. I mean, like, it's just sort of saying the same thing. But okay, it's cool. It's cool. So we've got, let's have a look. We got the brain, we've got the line, we've got the correlation, we've got gait speed, we've got brain volume. So greater gait speed correlates to greater volume. Can you see my mouse? No, we're back to not seeing my mouse. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Oh. No, you can see the mouse like activating things, but you can't actually see the mouse itself. That's annoying because sometimes you can. Then I can point to things and talk to you about stuff. That would be cool. But anyway, the top graph right at the top there says IQ as plotted against brain volume, gait speed. This is why I'm so glad we can just read the conclusions of the study and we don't have to actually go through all of this. Mean pace of aging. How would you know? Pace of aging, years of physiological change, chronological year. Oh. Gait speed quintile. So I guess there's this whole idea. I guess it always comes back to this whole like RK strategy, life strategy stuff. And people don't really talk about it in those terms anymore, but this idea that some people just have like a more slow life, like where they are pubescent for longer, they grow more slowly, their brain ends up getting larger, and they basically have more, they spend more years in puberty and development, and they're going to have more youthful looking faces. Yeah, very interesting. Childhood to adulthood cognitive decline. Plotted to IQ. I love this kind of stuff. This is great. It's sort of the same. The data always points in the same sort of direction all the time. You just sort of see it over and over again until you become quite familiar with it. Will Sexton says, drones need to go the way of mustard gas. We need to sign a UN agreement banning their usage. It's a cowardly, disproportionate, and lowly way of combat. I think it's true. I mean, I'm generally just anti-weapons and aggression and, like, kind of pacifist, so I guess I would be agreeing with it, even if you made a different argument, but drone warfare has reached such a level that many fighters have lost hope of escaping or resisting. For example, the final strike on the barracks is terrifying. I'm sorry, I can't handle that music. Okay. So here's the drone footage. The drone. What is that building with the blue roof? It must have been some religious building. And they're in there. It can go through the door. It's terrifying. He's trying to run away. Oh, it's so sad. That's awful, isn't it? Isn't it just awful? Oh, stop with this noise. I'm so sorry. It's horrible. Anyway, yeah, why do you need like a cool like soundtrack over the top of people dying? It's just horrible. That's so horrible. Basically, they just wait for death. They just sort of try to hide. The one guy was running, but for the most part, they're just hiding under things, like hoping the drone doesn't find them. And then, what's the point of that? What sort of death is that? That's not honorable, is it? It's not like man. We should go back to man with a sword, like a club. I don't know. A lance, a horse. That is cool, you know? Like, the more skilled guy should survive. Like, then you're in a eugenic situation where you get, like, all the ladies can sit on the side, like, applaud, be like, oh, you know, the more skillful, more heroic guy has survived this encounter. Like, that's great. Can we go back to that? Not a drone just blowing up any random person. It's horrible. A man being arrested in Alabama was bitten by a police canine and bit the dog back. Open source intel says. Okay, let's have a look.
Hold it. Get him! Get him! Get him!
What are they even doing with this person? This is...
Hold it! Watch out! Hold it! Get him!
Why did he say get him? Was he getting out? Was he running away? It seems like he's being detained.
Get him! Get him! Quit biting! Quit biting!
Oh, when he says quit biting, I think he's talking about the man. He's saying to the man, stop biting the other police officer or the dog's gonna bite you. I think that's what he's saying.
Quit biting! Let go of my dog! Let go of my dog! Let go!
Let go of my dog, but he's not doing anything to the dog. His hand's not even on the dog. I'm so confused.
Oh my dog! Let go of my dog! Let go of my dog!
I hope this isn't too loud for you guys.
Let go of my dog! Stop fighting! Stop fighting! Hold it!
Alright, so he just like freaked out and started biting the dog back. The dog was biting his leg. See, he's actually in tune with the animal. These police officers are like the opposite of that, aren't they? They're like freaking out. This guy's in tune with nature. I get bitten, I bite back. You got to sort of appreciate that a little bit. Ray says, I wonder if immigrant parents know how much psychological torment they're inflicting on their children by depriving them of a majority culture. Now, I'm not sure exactly what she means by that. That could be interpreted in two ways. Depriving a child of a majority culture could mean raising them in a household that has a minority culture and not integrating them into majority culture. That's what I initially thought she meant. But then I think what it could mean is not living in the culture where your own culture is the majority. This woman is so deeply wounded by the basic fact that white men find white women pretty that she's become a socialist. And it's referring to this post by Ella Devi, an Indian lady, and she says, I own approximately that much makeup because I've been wearing a very heavy full face of makeup every single day since I was 13. To be fair, that's a lot of girls. Like, that is not uncommon, I'm gonna say. Like, she's kind of painting herself as like, oh, I'm the victim, this is terrible, but that's quite normal. Which I'm not saying it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, but it is sadly quite normal. Because I got bullied so badly, and I bet that conventionally attractive white bitch who tweeted that has never gone through anything like that. You don't think people at high school get bullied? Like, it's very normal. Once again, this is a very normal experience, but she's interpreting it in a, oh, well, I look different, I'm an ethnic minority, so therefore it's a special experience when I experience it. But actually, people get horrifically bullied. I grew up in a school, it was like, basically there was only white kids in the school, and people got horrifically bullied. Awful, awful. And then she also says, hearing a white woman complain about men liking blondes more than brunettes is enough to incite a violent rage inside me. So I guess you could interpret it. It's not clear what she's saying. It's almost like she's expecting you to understand it. But she's sort of saying, well, try having black hair and brown skin, we'll then see who would find you attractive. Like, the whole she's basically saying the blonde brunette distinction is not as great as what she's experienced. Like, she's experienced a much greater distinction, being much more dark in her features, and obviously so she's experienced rejection from males. It sucks. Like, you know, that sucks for her. That's not nice. It's not nice walking around as a young woman and you're the prettiest you're ever going to be in your life because you're young and your skin's still nice, and you're being rejected by men, or you feel like you're being rejected by men. That's not nice. That's definitely not nice. And I think these minority communities have to find a way of dealing with that. They probably need to have their own, and I think they do. I think they do usually have ways of dealing with that. They have their own marriage markets, their own dating sites. They might go on holidays back home and just make sure they find a way of coping and make their children feel mentally adjusted, which obviously in her case didn't happen. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of anti-white hatred that's just dripping out of her words here. Which, yeah, I mean, there are just people who... she probably would have done better psychologically being in the majority culture. Craftsmen in Serbia have created a capsule style beehive that allows you to keep bees right in your apartment. Oh, don't tell me that's been deleted as well. Come on. Oh no, what is this? Why do people delete content? They put it up for like 2 days and then delete it. I don't understand why. Anyway, it's like a translucent sort of pod thing, probably this big, like a backpack almost, and you bolt it to your wall, and it has like a tube that goes out your window or out of the wall to the outside, and the bees literally, you can't touch them, thank gosh, but they come in through the tube, establish their beehive, and then they go out through the tube and fly away and do their honey seeking thing, I guess. It's very, very cool. Noah Smith said, by the way, the incel worldview is totally at odds with the data. Sexlessness has increased equally among men and women. Chads are getting laid less than before, and female sexlessness is more common than male sexlessness. Oh, that word is just throwing me off, I'm sorry. Than male sexlessness. So here's the graph. They asked people never had vaginal sex. The red line is heterosexual and bisexual women, young women, 18 to 29 years old. And the blue line is heterosexual men, 18 to 29 years old. It's very similar. Like, it's very similar. There's a little gap here around 2013 to 2015. That might be the era where there was legitimately a bit more hookup culture, where a minority of the guys were sleeping with a majority of the girls, that sort of thing. Like, a little bit, but not, even then, the gap is still very small. It's nuts. And even if you just consider age gap, the fact that people have age gap relationships, and the age gap can be 5 years, it can be 10 years, you would expect women to have sex at an earlier age. And so you would actually expect that the female line should be lower. It should be, the rate of sexlessness for women should be lower than the male line and still be like completely normal, just that because there's an age gap. And you're not even seeing that. It's bizarre. It's not what you expect if you just sort of read discourse online. You'd think it would be really, really different. Okay, it was lifetime opposite sex partners among males 15 to 44. So basically the top line is okay, so it's from 2002 to 2022, so over 20 years. The 95th percentile of men, it's once again, it peaks, yeah, it's exactly what you would have thought from the previous graph. Around 2013 to 2015, there was this sort of peak of, I guess, the most promiscuous men sleeping around the most, and it's declined back down to 2002 levels, which is probably still too high, but it is what it is. And then 80th percentile, much lower. So there's always that small fraction of men that have a really, really, really high amount of sexual partners, and then most men have much lower amount of sexual partners or none. And that's sort of what you see throughout time. Maybe that's just what it is. Maybe we need to sort of accept that. Maybe it's not something to fight, you know? Elon Musk says, if extremely violent criminals are not imprisoned, eventually they will murder innocent people, pretty much. There was a shopkeeper just... Oh, let's listen to this for a minute. This is really sad.
Spoke with Eyewitness News a year ago, saying he worried about violence against bodega workers he'd seen on social media.
People got shot, killed. Sometimes got robbed, and the police never responds quick.
Tonight, the organization is wondering if the person who shot Abdul Salah was someone who shouldn't have been on the street. Himself spoke with Eyewitness News a year ago, saying he worried about violence against bodega workers.
Yeah, so it's really sad. You know, people are aware of rising crime. They're aware of it, and then they're just living in fear. And this guy actually ended up getting killed. Last night, he was killed by shoplifters. This guy was killed after saying that. He's like just living in fear. If you're living in fear of being like raped or killed on the streets where you're living, you probably are correct. You're probably right. You probably should not be there. We see this over and over again. Same in London. Like, if you don't feel safe, maybe you shouldn't be there. Like, you can move. Maybe the grass is greener. Maybe there's a safer place you can live. Pete Hegseth's wife wore a dress from Timu to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And here's a picture of the dress. It's exactly the same dress. You can see it's got no boning or structure in it. So that would also indicate that it is, in fact, a Timu dress. It's not very high quality, you know. This is obviously very gossipy, but I just thought it was funny that a woman who is with a guy like this, you know, I sort of thought, oh, maybe a bad taste in men can reflect a bad taste in style or fashion. I don't know. I mean, crazy warmonger husband, cheap, shitty dress. I guess it sort of works out, doesn't it? Scientists have created one of the most detailed 3D reconstructions of a human eukaryotic cell. This is a groundbreaking model, often termed a cellular landscape cross-section through the eukaryotic cell. It combines data from X-ray and tomography, nuclear magnetic resonance, and cryo-electron microscopy. It's just so cool. So this is the closest that we sort of know to what a eukaryotic cell looks like from the inside. Obviously probably not as colourful as depicted, but that really helps the human eye see it. And obviously eukaryotic cells are in animals. And I was trying to figure out what all these things are. A lot of these things look like proteins just floating around proteins. Why is it all moving so much? I don't know. Are those round? Where's the nucleus? Is it a mitochondria? This looks nothing like the models I learned at school. There's just a lot of proteiny stuff going on here. And is that hairy looking thing, is that a cell wall? Or is that the wall? Is that the wall of the nucleus? What? I really do not know what's going on here, but I thought that was very cool. Shoot a manifesto. We're not going to go over it, but obviously there was a Trump assassination attempt. Yeah, we're not going through that. Absolutely not. Okay, last thing before I fall asleep. Anthony Pompliano says, the internet has long suspected that low testosterone was a root cause of many societal problems. The mainstream doctors, academics, and journalists dismissed the thesis as wacky, far-right conspiracy with no merit. The science is now undeniable, though. Men with low testosterone are much more likely to go with the crowd and refrain from standing up for the right thing rather than the popular thing. Quite literally, if we could increase the average testosterone levels in America, we could address a number of issues. The internet was known for this. The internet has known this for a long time. So there's a study called Testosterone Eliminates Strategic Prosocial Behavior Through Impacting Choice Consistency in Healthy Males. And I read some of that. And basically, it says testosterone supplementation erased the audience effect in male generosity. Men on placebo became more prosocial when watched. Testosterone-treated men did not. And you might say, well, being prosocial is good though, but it just depends what the social pressure is pressuring you to do. So basically, if you're high in testosterone, you're going to have more of an internal compass that's like, this is my morality, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and I'm going to do it no matter what, at all times. That's like the more masculine behavior. And then the lower testosterone behavior is, oh, well, if this person's watching me, I'd better do this thing that they might like. Oh, that person's going to like me more if I do this behavior. So it's constantly changing your behavior based on who's watching and who's going to judge you on what. And then, yeah, like you think, oh, once the door closes, you're in your room or you're in your office or you're in your bedroom and the door closes, well, who are you then? Well, the answer's probably a very different person if you're low in testosterone. Because then you're going to let out all this stuff that you don't care. No one can see you. You're not actually consistent. You're not actually trustworthy. It's really scary. Alright, that's it. We're calling it a night. Good night.